Hello, happy Thursday, y'all. Hello, hello.
Hello.
Okay, somehow my camera, okay, there we go. All right. Well, welcome to Let's Go Live. I'm Gigi Mara, and I have with me dark and spicy fantasy romance author Kris Woods. Welcome, Kris.
Hi.
So tell us what you write. Obviously, I said dark and spicy fantasy. So what does that mean? Because I feel like dark is such a wide genre, or say maybe it's a subgenre. Anyway, and we all know
I don't
spice
know.
levels. When I think I'm writing like a 5 chili pepper story, people will come in and they're like 2 peppers, 3 peppers. I'm like, oh,
Yeah, I've noticed that too. Some people will be like, woo, whoo, like, five peppers, and then the next person is like, it was all
meh.
right. It was only two. Eh.
Okay, what does dark mean to you in your writing?
Uh, so not all of my stories are super dark. So some of them kind of go into some dark themes. Where it's not just flowers and rainbows and like the happy romances. So there's some action, mostly inhuman characters, the death, the gore, battles, that kind of stuff. So more like on the blood side, less on the like stalkery side
So
of dark.
I'm hearing trigger warnings or content warnings.
Yes, yes, yes. My first book had a pretty healthy list of trigger warnings. The second and third one are quite a bit smaller, so they're not nearly as like I would say they're probably not even dark.
Oh, okay. Well, I saw that you have two separate series.
Mm-hmm.
So why fantasy romance?
I It's fun to write inhuman characters. I did attempt to write a book with just purely human characters, and somehow as the story progressed, the one of the characters ended up twisting and not being human. So it was like, oh, okay. I guess I'm not good at writing human characters. Maybe I should stick to fantasy.
Well, okay. So I was talking to another author today, in fact, and we were talking about how at some point your characters just turn the pages for you,
Yeah.
right? They like tell their own story, and you're literally just like a court reporter, just dictating. And so that kind of sounds like what happened to you. You're like, okay, I'm gonna write only mortal beings, and
Mm-hmm.
then all of a sudden he like twists, and you're like, okay, well that goes out the window.
Yeah. Whoops. Yeah, the one I'm currently working on is the main character. He starts off as human, and then an accident happens, and he's not. And but
Mm.
like his changes in it, like he becomes a lot more aggressive, and he also somehow develops a breeding kink. Uh,
Oh,
I, I know, right? And
okay.
so like it just kind of came out in the story, and I was like, oh,
AKA
woo,
spicy.
yes, aka spicy. And so I was like, oh, okay, let's run with this. We'll see where it goes.
Oh, heck yeah. And that is a very common kink. The omega and the nodding and yeah, kind of all into
Mm-hmm.
that.
Yeah.
But it is like there are some loyal fans. I'm in this baby author group, and there's them that write that, like sub genre, if you will, that kink or trope.
Yeah.
But anyway, it's common and it's
It's
so
very
popular.
common. Yeah, I had to do some research when I realized he was taking that turn. I had to do some like Omega verse research to be like, how does like
That
I've never had to write like any of those kinds of scenes.
that's very difficult research for you, Kris. I'm sure you're
Oh, I
like,
know.
oh man,
Dang it.
someone has to do the
um,
hard lifting,
the heavy lifting.
heavy lifting. So tell me, do you read that? And did you get started as a reader? And so that you thought like, oh, I can do this.
That's exactly how I started. I wrote I started a book in college and it went nowhere and ended up in a closet. and just started reading after I had kids, and I was like, you know what, I need time to escape, and I started reading again. It was like, I can do this. Like, I actually started a book once, and I pulled it out and started tweaking it, and there's errors in it are pretty hilarious from the original draft. They're pretty bad. And it got to the point where it's like, oh, actually this isn't so terrible. And I started on Inkit posting like a few chapters just to see, like, am I any good? Should I just stop now? Like, like, okay, like I got it. I'm not good at this.
And explain to those that are listening what Inkit is.
Oh, okay. So Inkit is an online kind of like platform where authors can post chapters. They have a subscription service now where some authors will charge you, but I usually post my like alpha, like rough drafts on there. So yeah, it's like a free platform.
And you get feedback, and you get comments, and people, it helps. It's almost like, for lack of a better word, like a mini developmental editor, because if you have holes or problems, they will
let you know. Oh yeah, they let you know. And that's what I like about it. I still use it a lot for like alpha reading. I'll post my rough drafts on there, and I get feedback, and it's like, oh, okay, yeah, that's not so good. I should probably like tweak this storyline. Or others are like, oh, why did you do that? That's weird. And so it's kind of nice. It helps out a lot.
It's a fantastic platform, similar to like Wattpad, but you better have some thick skin or appreciate well, you'll get criticism all the way around, but hopefully you can pick out the constructive criticism.
Most people are pretty good. They've added a thing where you basically can reply with emojis now instead of, so a lot of people are commenting less with words, and it's like just using the emojis of like strong dialogue or spicy or like whatever it is.
That softens the blow on the troublesome part.
Does. But the downside is we don't get nearly as much feedback as we were getting. So that's the only downside to it.
Okay, so this very first book you started in college. It sat, and there's many, many manuscripts in this world that have sat collecting dust digitally or in someone's desk. So I've talked to many a good author that started way back, shelved it because life was lifing, and then picked it back up. So is this your debut novel then that it ended up morphing into?
It was not. I actually ended up, I saw, there was a writing prompt I found on Facebook, and I was like, oh, that would make a good story. And then I just moved on. And however, my brain didn't move on, and I decided that like, I'm going to write this. And so that was my debut novel, was from a writing prompt. So the one from college ended up being my second book, because I was like, well, it deserves its time in the limelight. So I published it too.
Okay, that writing prompt is fascinating, because we know that they're very popular on social media. And even magazines will have that, where you can send in a submission and be part of a, not an anthology, I can't even think, like Dragon Source or Dragon Soul Press is one of them. Not quite an anthology. Oh, a book of short stories.
Yeah.
And so I know writing prompts are really popular, but you're able to make a whole book out of that writing prompt idea.
I did. It was, without throwing too many spoilers for it, but it was that a woman finds a photo album in her like boyfriend's house, and it's pictures of them through the centuries. And so,
it's pictures of
them together through multiple centuries, and she doesn't remember any of it.
Okay, so it's kind of like that movie and the book Adeline. Have you Adelaide? I'm gonna get, but it has Blake Lively in it and Harrison Ford, and so she never ages.
Oh no, I don't think I know that one.
Kind of similar. It's such a good movie. But I'm a huge Blake Lively fan.
I do like her. Yeah, you're right. She's good. I'm a Harrison Ford fan too.
I know, but he's not doing as many movies anymore.
He's old, so it happens.
Okay, so with that one that you wrote in college, and knowing that you had that character who kind of ended, and you're like, I'm not writing human beings anymore. Was the college one fantasy also?
So it's more paranormal. I actually have it with me. So this is my first one.
I saw your covers. Love, love, love.
Thank you. I did this one myself. It's not my favorite, but I was trying to be a
Really?
little bit, like indie authors. We don't make money very often. So
Yeah.
so yeah, that one was my attempt at a cover. And so they're both human. But he is struggling with powers that he doesn't understand and can't control. And so the book is him trying to understand that. So I would call that one more paranormal more than fantasy, but they are both human at least. So they're my only fully human couple, I think.
Okay. So going into your two series and then their fantasy, I talk with a lot of fantasy authors, and romance books have certain genre expectations. And I think fantasy does too, right?
Mm-hmm.
Fantasy is tougher to me to write because of the world building. And if you guys don't
Yes.
get that magic system right, or you don't remember your magic system and you set out the expectations to the reader, and then you go into something that violates your magic system, they will come for you. Your readers will
Yes.
come for you if you get something wrong.
Yes. Yes, they will. So my debut novel, I got that one too. My debut novel, this one I paid someone for this. Oh my gosh, this one I love.
I love that cover.
Yes,
Fire. Okay,
so this was,
tell everybody, because it's backwards on the screen, tell everybody the title.
it's Will You Love Me Forever? And so it's Graziana with Kris Covers made this one for me. Lovely job. Yeah, when she made it, I was like, that's not even at all like what I said, but it's better than what I said. Like, I don't know how she pulled that out and did it.
I love when graphic designers do that.
Yes.
Like,
Oh my
you feel
gosh.
like as an indie, you're like rowing the boat by yourself. You're like, damn. And then a graphics designer comes in and just sees it, and you're just like, oh my gosh, someone's rowing this boat with me.
Yeah. When she put like all of this, so there's an different ebook cover that goes along with it, and it's the picture of the male main character on it. So that was interesting to try and find a human character that worked with him, like a human actor, model, whatever, that would work with the picture. So I was really picky with that one. So that one, so this series is my Fated Love series. I'm hoping to get book 2 out in probably the summer. And it's very light on the fantasy. Probably the only fantasy part of it is that there's inhuman characters. So it's in our world.
Okay.
And it didn't require a lot of world building.
Nice.
And then
easy.
The magic, yeah,
Easier.
exactly. And the magic is pretty slim. I don't know how to describe it without giving too much away, but yeah, so that one I've always have kind of referred to that series as, I call it romantasy instead of like just fantasy romance. I know that's what everyone calls it.
Well, I
but
think Sarah Moss or Mass, however you say it, she's like that, it's romantasy.
Yeah.
But I know on magic systems, they can be hard or soft. There could be, like fast rules where you can't violate the laws of nature. It has to be, the character always has to be for good magic, and then the antagonist always has the bad magic. I feel like there's such, and so what's nice as a fantasy author, you can create your own.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's what I like about the fantasy world. There's no rules. You build the rules, you write the rules, and your characters follow along with it. And so the downside to that is trying to make sure the reader can then see the rules and understand the rules. Oh, wait, why did they make that decision? Oh, some arbitrary rules that you created. So I think it's finding that balance. So yeah, the fantasy in that one is pretty low key.
And that's in your Fated Mate series, right?
Well, the Fated Love series, yeah. But they find their mates in that one.
Okay. So how long on that particular book? Let's go through like your writing process, because I want to know, are you writing both series at the same time, which can be daunting? And so how did you start with your first one? You did the writing prompt book. And then,
yeah, that was this one. So this is the writing prompt book.
What?
Yeah, so that was one from the writing prompt. It was a few years ago. I don't actually remember when I started it. Almost a year and a half ago. Yeah, okay. I saw it, and then I was telling my husband, and I was like, what do you think of this? And he was like, okay, that sounds interesting. And so then I started writing it, and about a month later, I had a book. And I know I've never written anything else that fast, so I don't know where that one came from.
Gosh.
Yes, and then it's been edited and like obviously tweaked, so the rough draft is never the same as
8,000 rewrites and edits, and you grow to where you look at your story so much, you're like, oh, I hate it.
Yeah, I have a wonderful, a dear friend who helps me out with, I run ideas by her all the time. It's Aria Harding. She's also a romance author.
Oh, she needs to be on here.
I think she is on here. I think I saw her name. So she like reads a lot of my stuff and kind of like helps me process it, especially if like there's been a few books. The last book I just wrote, there she is. The last book I just wrote, I got stuck like halfway through and I was like almost in tears. Like I couldn't figure it out. So she kind of helped me like character map and like tweak and outline. It was
almost like a critique partner, someone that's in your story with you. They get it. They understand when you've kind of written yourself into a corner, how to like back up 2 scenes or 2 chapters and get out.
Yep. Yeah. We kind of like, we share each other's stories and we're always laughing at how opposite of authors we are, because she definitely writes more of the sweeter contemporary romance and then I write the darker, more fantasy romance. And it's fun to see the opposite ways of like, oh well, I would write it like this. She's like, that doesn't work in my genre, that works in yours. No.
But sometimes that works. Like sometimes the most unlikely partnerships are when you're so opposite, and I feel it's because you don't tread on each other's territory. Right? Not that there's not room for at the table for all of us, because there are some voracious readers out there. We can't publish enough to keep up with some of these readers.
Yeah.
Okay, so you wrote that in a month. Insane.
Yes. Yeah, that was intense.
That is, my gosh, it just must have been like pouring out of you. Like you're probably like, getting the kids ready for school and you're thinking, and like driving to work, thinking about it. Yeah.
I started using my time to work in the car when that's the only time I have quiet with children.
Exactly.
And so I would just turn the recorder on my phone and I would just like talk into it. Yeah. And I would like think through ideas and play through ideas and just trying to like process and picture it. So the way I write mine is I kind of run, it's almost like I always describe it as a movie in my head.
Love it.
And so, but like I picture what the characters are doing and what would they say to each other. So I play it out in my head most of the time first, and then it makes it easier to put it on paper.
Oh my gosh, I love that. So then do you just dictate? Do you dictate now your story, or is it just the brainstorming and idea creation?
No, I actually I'll sometimes brainstorm ideas. Most of the time I just sit at the computer and what flows out, I just kind of let go. And other times, some of them do require me to step back and go, I don't know where this is going. And I have to like process a little bit more, think through the options of, I know where I want to go and like how many steps do I want to get there.
Oh, of course, as an author, it's like decision making all the time.
All the time.
This scene, do I go right, left, up, or down?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm not an outliner, so I just kind of run with it.
So the second book, how long did that take you to write?
So the second and the Faded Love series?
The one from college. You dusted off?
From college. Okay, so that one took me, I don't actually know how long I started in college. I probably obsessed over that one for months because it was like, I tweaked it and then I was like, I don't think this, it didn't feel as strong as the other one. So the Faded Love series, I didn't feel as strong. And so I kind of I hid it from the world still. And then I was like, what the heck, I'm going to try it on, I'm going to try. All right. So when I posted on Inkit to see if I was even worth a snuff, and it was brutalized on Inkit.
Oh, goodness.
And so
delete.
Yeah, it was so bad. And I was like, I just can't even process that one right now. So the world will never see it. And then after I started the Faded Love series, I was like, what the heck? I'm going to give it a shot. And it complete rewrite. It barely resemble, yeah, it barely resembles one from college. So it's probably been a good solid year of
Oh my
weeks and
gosh, that's a
obsessing.
brand new book,
Yeah.
really.
The characters are the same for the most part, but that's about it.
I feel like rewrites are brutal,
Yes.
right? I
It
mean, I
was
feel like
painful.
there's so much harder than just writing an original story.
Yeah, it was tough because it was like it didn't jump in the right place. There wasn't enough detail in the right areas. It was just, with the spicy writing, you gotta find the balance where is it too much? Is it too little? Is it like too descriptive? Is it not descriptive enough? Like, where's the balance? So
What I learned from Bookstagram and Book Talk is there's never too much spice.
I did, on this book, one of the reviews told me that there was too much, and so that was my post on like, hey, can I tempt you with a negative review that I was told there's too much spice?
Okay, so I have a series called the Cougars and Cubs series. Pretty explanatory, and I did get one who was like, it's too much, spice. And I thought, I'm pretty sure the series title alone
Yeah,
lets you
that should have been
know
obvious.
what you're in store for.
Yeah,
That's okay.
yeah, that one should have been obvious.
I have plenty who are like, love it. And I've even had a couple that have reached out and said, hey, thanks for the ideas. Okay.
I love that. Yeah, I've had a few coworkers read my books, and I love it when they come to work the next day and they're like, "Woo!" Like, your husbands are very thankful.
Yep, double
Good
done.
job. Yeah.
I don't know how I got that weird bubble.
Oh, that was cool.
Okay, so what is the title of that second book? And is it in the what is the Immortal series?
So the one from college is called The Site. So this one's called
The
The Site. Yeah. And so it's its own unique universe. I will say there is a crossover. So there's a character in that book who is actually in my Immortal Traveler series. And
People love crossovers. Readers love them.
Yeah, so it's one of the kind of side slash main characters in it. He's the brother of the female lead in the series. So he like mentions his sister or something. And so when yes, I was gonna say Aria, when she first read it, she was like, oh my God, like I know who this is.
Yeah,
So
best
it was kind of
crossover ever.
Mm-hmm. It was fun. It was her idea to do a crossover, actually. So I was like, this seems fitting.
Well, thank you, Aria. Right?
I know, that was a good one.
How many books then do you have in that series, or how many do you plan for?
In the Immortal Traveler series. Okay, so my goal, I think, I have 4 written and a rough idea for 5th one. And then I have 1 spinoff done, and then plans for 2 more. So it's going to be a big series. My goal is I would like to do 9 in the main chunk of the series, and then like spin-offs as the kind of main character, or some side characters build up and you fall in love with them. So they deserve their own story.
Oh my gosh, girl, that
Yeah.
is so aggressive. I love it. 9?
Yeah, well, I don't know if I'll make it to 9. That's a goal. So the back of the books, here, I'll give a little sneak peek. So the back of the books has a symbol on it. And so each one is going to have, so she has markings on her. It's how she uses her magic. And so each one is going to have a different symbol, and she has 9. So that's why I was thinking it'd be fun. Yeah, I thought it'd be fun to show like all of her markings on her book.
Gosh, what great Easter eggs too. Another thing readers love. You're just knocking it on the ballpark with what readers like.
So she's very, very special. She was actually my imaginary friend as a kid, and I just out of the blue was like, oh, her stories have always like kept me entertained. So maybe I'll make her own series.
Okay, that is precious.
Yeah. So she's like the
is that weaved anywhere, or would your readers know that was inspiration for her?
She's in my it's in the thank you part of it where I mentioned that she was my imaginary friend. So like as a little girl, you're scared and you know, you don't always feel so strong. And so my imaginary friend was this like uber, like ultimate alpha female. And so, you know, she always had my back, or would be like, it's just if world got too rough. So.
Oh my gosh, that is so precious. And I feel like honestly, everybody needs that source of comfort and
Mhm.
protection. And like, not necessarily like, I was gonna say like kind of your bully, that could go and bully the world on your behalf, but that sounds
Yes. Yeah.
terrible.
Yeah. She was my way of kind of escaping the world.
Yeah, as your protector.
Hmm.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
so precious.
Yeah. So I'm pretty excited and nervous to share her with the world, but on because she went through Inkit as well, and everyone loved her. So hopefully, be nice.
I feel like when you write strong female characters, there's so many people nowadays that are, it's just so relatable for a lot of women. It's either they are that person and they're like, oh my God, you literally wrote me, or they'll say, I wish I could be as strong as her. I
Yeah.
just don't feel you can do any wrong with really strong women characters.
Yeah. I've never been. None of my females are pushovers. I'm not very good at writing the.
Wet noodles.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm not good with those. All of mine have like a little gumption and spine to them. They stand up and back talk.
Yeah, I can't say I do a terrific job of that either. Some of mine I do have to pull back a little bit, and I try and be like, okay, this character is self-sacrificing. Remember that.
Yeah. That's Gabriel's problem. She's very self-sacrificing.
Yeah, to the detriment of herself,
Oh
correct?
yeah, she's injured frequently throughout the series because of it. She would rather her be injured than, her loved ones.
And readers can relate to that too, because there always seems to be in like every family, if you have like a larger family and there's all these dynamics in play, there is always that peacemaker, the one that will take it upon themselves rather than seeing other people hurt. So I think that's very relatable.
Yeah, I think so too. I always like reading about them.
So let me ask you this: where do you get your inspiration from to write your female characters?
Um, I hesitate to say me, but I'm I like to think that I also have a spine and have a tendency to talk back. My husband would probably agree. Um,
Get him in here. Let's ask.
yeah.
Kidding.
Oh, he
Kidding.
would definitely agree. And so I think that's where I get it. And I also think in this world, a lot of times, like being a woman is hard. It's nice to like you said, that be like, you know what, I am that woman, or like I want to be her. I want to be able to like stand up for myself. So I think it also like that's why I write them. Um, for that, and just women you see in movies, TV shows, people you see on the street. My family now has a joke that they're like, careful, don't say anything to her. She might like write it in a book.
Yeah. It's true that inspiration is all around, and sometimes, we're guilty of using our friends, but people have different
Mm-hmm.
idiosyncrasies or mannerisms, and you just pick up on them and you're like, how can I not write you into a book? It's just too easy.
Yes. I saw a picture. It was just some random picture online, and it inspired. It was like I fell in love with their eye color, and it helped kind of like navigate a character. And so it's just something as simple as the eye color. Uh,
Oh,
so I
okay.
love that little stuff.
So I was at the gym about a year ago, and in walks this older woman. She's probably, I want to say, in her 60s, and she has hot pink hair. It's short and spiky, so it's like short around here, spiky at the top, arms, sleeves, and tattoos. And I was like, oh, and when you're at the gym, you watch everybody because you're miserable,
Yes. Oh, I
okay?
hate
You
the
can't
gym.
watch your little TV or what the music they have playing above. You have to watch people because you're trying not to like pass out, throw up, pee on yourself, right?
Yep. Uh-huh.
So I'm on the treadmill. This guy's like running a marathon next to me, and in she walks, and I was just like, wow, I'm gonna write her into a book because she is authentically her. And
Mm-hmm.
so I have her written into a book that's coming out in the summer, and her name is Rebecca, but she goes by Bex.
Ooh, like that.
Right?
Yeah.
Because with pink hair, and oh, and the other thing is this lady. She had her hands were covered in rings, like ring stacks. And
Mm-hmm.
then she walks over to the free weight section. I was like, how is she going to be lifting weights with her ring stacks on? Girl, she did it.
Oh, bless her. I always have to remove rings.
Oh, no, not her. She's like, whatever. But yeah, so I know inspiration
It
comes from everywhere.
really does. It's kind of fun.
It is really fun. Okay, so take us through your 2 series. Step us through what you have out and what's coming up.
Okay. So I have my first series is the Fated Love series. It's a series of interconnected standalone stories. So I fell in love with those. I don't even remember the name of the author, but where you get characters from each one. So you meet the characters who are going to show up in the next one.
Like that.
Yeah, but I tried to write them in a way that you could read them out of order if need
Yeah.
be. But it's better if you read them in order.
Well, you
So it's
have 2 different kinds of readers. You have those that will binge on
yeah,
series, right? They'll read,
yeah.
if it's a good series, they'll read every single book that you have out and pre-order the next one.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have readers that are just like, oh, series. And, they want to be able to pick and choose based upon the blurb.
And that's why I wrote the Fated Love series that way, because initially when I wrote it, it was just going to be one done, like, wham bam, thank you, ma'am. Like that was it.
Yeah.
And then the readers fell in love with the brother and the story, and they were like, well, he needs his own story. And I was like, okay, why not?
Yeah.
And so that spun the second one. And then the third one is so this guy's son is in the third one. He's the main lead. And then we meet a bodyguard in that one, and that becomes book 4. So I'm actually currently writing book 4 right now. So my goal with the 2 series is I would like to do, kind of one back and forth. So it's
your release, like your publication would be like 1 book per alternating.
Mm-hmm, yeah, so alternate between the 2 series, so that way eventually kind of slowly gets out and kind of drag the tension, hopefully a little bit more. Sorry, readers. Kind of build the anticipation for the next one. It also comes down to, when can I afford to buy the next cover? So
I know, because a good graphics designer on cover, I mean, they say you can't judge a book by a cover, but let's be honest.
You do. You all do.
We all do.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And nowadays with AI, like I don't use AI covers, but there are some amazing, amazing fantasy AI covers coming out. Yeah. Wow, they'll blow your socks off. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so, and this one, the dragon emblem is made using AI. Yeah. So she was able to design it for me. So, but the rest of it is a full graphic designer, designed the rest of it.
Oh, good.
It's got like subtle flowers in the background and stuff. So it's kind of exciting. So yeah, that one, they're standalones. It's kind of centered around more the male main character, and how they like. So the idea is that they're trying to find their mates, mm-hmm. Whatever the journey is that they have to find them. And so each one has their kind of own unique journey.
Ooh, super sexy, because we always like hunky men looking for the women.
And I like the very large men. So
of course.
So the first book, he's 6'7", so he's massive.
Okay.
Yeah, and so I tend to write tall females as well, to back them up. Well, I'm actually very tall as well, so I'm 6 feet.
I love it. See, you got to represent, because that's kind of underrepresented.
It is. Mm-hmm. A lot of the books I've been reading lately, you get this like 6'3" stud, and he falls in love with this 5'2" woman, and it's like, really, like, come on, please.
This is in high school, y'all.
Yeah. So I write the tall females. I did write. So in the second book, the female interest is 5'3", and so I actually had to call my short friends and ask for, like, did I write her correctly? Because I don't know what it means to be short. Like I don't know. Like, the perspective, is it different? Like, is it not different?
It's totally different. So my mom and my sister are like 5'1", and I'm not as tall as you. I'm 5'9", and so it's different in a million ways. But I mean, I grew up around it, so I know how, like, the seat is all the way up when you're getting into the car, and they're like this. It's just they sit on top of the steering wheel, or they can't reach anything out of the cupboards because it's too
Oh, at
high, or the
work all
cupboards
the time, people are like, hey, can you come and reach this for me? And I was like,
at the grocery
oh my
store.
gosh, like, how many times are you going to come in? Ask? Look, there we got 6'3".
Exactly.
Welcome.
Yes, you're in good company.
Yes. Yeah. So I like to write the tall females. And so therefore, the tall men to support them. He's the only like giant of them. The rest of them are much more like, I think his brother is 6'2" or 6'3". So he's a much more reasonable height,
So
which still I think is considered tall.
so I know in your Immortal Travelers you said 9 books, but in the Fated Love series, how many do you want? You mentioned the
So my
4.
goal for it is to do 5. So the first book is the main guy, and then his brother, his son, and then there's a bodyguard who we meet in book 3. And then I'm going to do a prequel where we meet that guy's parents. And so his biological parents. And again, you got to read the story if you want to understand.
No spoilers. No spoilers.
Yeah. So his parents end up dying. And so it's what's exciting for me from a writer's perspective is that it will be no happily ever after, because if you've read book 1, they have to die.
Yeah.
And so it's going to be kind of interesting to be like, oh, it doesn't wrap into this nice and neat little bow. It's like I got to kill the main characters off in the end.
Kris, it is so much fun to kill your darlings.
Oh, I have killed plenty of characters. Anyone who's read my books will vouch for that. That's
so much fun.
Yeah, I'm not shy about killing off characters. Some of my readers get really mad at me when I kill them off, but it's good. That means they like the characters enough.
I know, but you're like, but of course they have to die. Like, duh.
Yeah, exactly. And so, yeah, I'm kind of excited to write the prequel because of that. I haven't written one where both main characters die.
Mm-hmm.
So
when does the next book, what is the next book and when does it come out?
So for Fated Love, the next book will be, I'm hoping this summer, or whenever I can afford the covers. It's called Will You Grant Me Tomorrow?
Oh,
so it's the brother's perspective. Yeah. So yeah, we got Will You Love, they all have Will You something in the titles. So you got Will You Love Me Forever, and then Will You Grant Me Tomorrow will be the next one, hopefully this summer.
I love those titles. I have such a hard time with titles, but when I come up against authors like you that have them, they're like magic. There's this one author, oh my gosh, Suzanne Kelman. She does historical romance, but hers are like A View from the Rooftops or Above the Stars We Fly.
Ooh.
And you're like, oh gosh, they're so, I know, right? Oh, they are. So I love yours.
Thank you. Yeah, the Will You Love Me Forever, that just like the book, the title just popped right in my head. And then I will say the second one, the Will You Grant Me Tomorrow, it went through a few versions of the title that I was like, I don't like this one, or I don't like that one. So it finally settled on that one. I really, yeah.
Not that you
so I tried to do this.
Tell us, but do you have book 3, 4, and the prequel titles already in mind, or are you still marinating on those?
So 3 is Will You Run From Me? And book 4 is book 4 is Will You Claim Me?
Okay.
And
which
then
perfect for Fated Love.
Yes. And then I don't know the prequel yet. I haven't gotten that far. Yeah, I don't have a name for that one. So
okay, so I'm gonna start a new series in addition to my other one. So when I start a new one, I'm gonna hit you up and I'm gonna be like, Kris, let's talk about titles.
Sometimes they're easy for me, and others I'm just like, that's lame, but whatever. We're gonna go with this. I can't think of anything else. I called it the Will You series for the longest time, and I was like, that's garbage. I need something like I need a catchy series title.
Oh, it's good. So book 2 will hopefully come out this summer. And then do you have any sort of schedule on 3 and 4? I know you had said when you can afford the book covers because they are an investment. But do you have like where you want to put them out, 2 a year, 1 a year, 1 every couple years?
I'd like to get into the routine of doing probably 3 books a year.
Ah.
So I've got the Immortal Travelers coming out March 1st, and then I'm hoping for book 2 of it to come out later in the year. And then, so that would mean that book 3 of The Fated Love would come out probably in the spring, and then book 4 probably the winter of next year. So at least the main ones, and then so that would be, I guess, so the series would probably be done early 2026.
Mm-hmm.
So kind of like it's yeah, very extended, but
Isn't that nice to have a blueprint of where you're going? It's got to be, to me, that's very comforting, right? You know where you're going for the next 2 years. How exciting.
it is kind of exciting to kind of think where everything's piecing into, place.
Totally. I like that. I mean, but I'm a planner
Thanks.
anyway, so I just like to daydream about, oh, what could be.
Yeah, it's mostly like, oh, let's go with this, and then it's like, oh, you have to in fact like buy a new car and buy a new washing machine and buy like all these other things. Like, oh, well, there went the cover budget. Guess we're gonna push back again.
Yeah,
So
life has a way of getting in the way of our dreams and goals. So yes,
yeah,
I understand that.
yeah, it does. It's good at that.
So let's talk writing craft, if you don't mind. What does your writing discipline look like? Do you write every day? Do you have any set goals on how much you write within a week, etc.?
I try not to set goals. I try to, like I said, I don't plot out any of my books. They just kind of flow. So I would like to write every day, but some days it's just not coming. In fact, the last chapter I wrote, it took me 3 weeks to write just because it wasn't flowing. So I just walked away from it.
Mm-hmm.
And so my goal is to never force it. Because whenever I've tried putting myself on deadlines and then I start forcing it out, then I get stressed and then it's just never as good.
Well, it also can add undue pressure, so the quality of your work doesn't come out and it doesn't flow as well because you're under the gun to get something down. And
Mm-hmm.
I do think, in general, for those that write every single day, some days are great writing days and other days are just horrible.
Yeah, when
This is
I,
garbage.
I did NaNoWriMo last
Oh,
year, not this past
mhm.
November, but the previous one. And, I forced myself to write every single day.
Yep,
And
50,000 words.
yeah, and some days I wrote I would bust out like 4,000 words in a day. And then the next day I'd get like 100. It's like, okay, whatever. It works. I wrote 10 words. I'll take it.
It's hard because sometimes you need to marinate on it. Sometimes you'll, like you said earlier, that you kind of wrote yourself into a stopping point. You're like, I can't even finish this book. Sometimes you're too close to it. You can't see what you have wrong or what you said wrong or how to get yourself out of it or how to move forward.
Mm-hmm.
Especially, I'm a pantser like you. And so it's fun to be a pantser, but also it's hard to be a pantser.
Yeah. Well, that's why I like working with Aria. She's a plotter. And so
Oh,
I know,
mad
yes, it's
respect.
been really eye-opening. So sometimes I'll get stuck in a book and I'm like, I don't know what to do. Where am I going to go? So I'll send her a few chapters and I'll give her kind of the background. And she's like, okay, here's where we need to process. And so she helps me kind of think it through and tweak it. And then it's like, okay, I got it. And then I can run with it again.
I love
Um,
that.
yeah.
I tell you, mad respect for plotters. I have tried it with one of my series. I'm like, I'm going to do it. I'm going to force myself. I'm just going to make it
Mm-hmm.
happen. And I even created my own beat sheet, to
Mm-hmm.
match like my word count. And it has been drudgery.
Yep.
And I'm like, there's no
I
match.
tried that with
This
her.
is garbage. I can't match the outline. I can't match my beat sheet. I'm way off. I don't know that chapter 29 is supposed to be where like the Smegsy scene comes in. I'm like, it just doesn't.
Yep. Yeah, I've done that before. I've tried outlining, and because I was like, oh, hey, what the heck? This is what everybody does. This is how you write books. And then,
Exactly.
like, my outline says to go this direction, and every time, like, the book, sharp right turn. And I was like, no, outline, and then sharp right turn. Oh my gosh. Like, I was like, so I just scrapped it and said, to heck with it. I'm going to do whatever I
You
want.
have children. Have you seen that movie Up where they have the dog and he's talking to all of a sudden the
Oh,
squirrel?
yeah, no, I'm the worst squirrel. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, us.
Mm-hmm.
So let me ask you this. What are the most important elements you feel you need to write in your books? What are you always looking for? What can your readers always expect?
Strong female.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, I'm not very good at, like you said, the wet noodles. I'm not very good at them.
Well, let's be honest. We want to throttle them when we come across those wet noodle, women in other people's works. You just want to shake that girl or slap her, like, get with it, okay?
Mm-hmm. I think it's okay. I'm a big fan of taking like alpha characters, whether female or male, and giving them that like heart-wrenching moment where they feel weak
Mm-hmm.
and then they kind of expose their inner
Yeah,
self. So I'm a really big fan.
knees.
Yeah, I don't write like abusive men either. So it's very, I mean, to each their own, but it's not what I write. I love an alpha male who is not like ashamed to have the equally as alpha female to like stand up to him. So I like it when you get the alpha male who has the shirt, his heart on his sleeve for his lady.
Yeah, and it's not afraid to be
Mm-hmm.
vulnerable.
Yeah, but only to her.
And then everybody else is like, what is it? What's the trope? Touch her and I'll die? Is that a trope?
Yeah, it's touch her and die. That's
kink?
I think that one's a trope. But that's the main character in The Fated Love. He's very much a touch her and die. Like I establish him as like a very alpha. Everyone's afraid of him, and then he meets her, and then he turns to immediate mush. Yeah,
those are the best.
Yeah, so that's and then of course plenty of spice. I like to write spice in my books. So.
Well, isn't it funny because some of these book boyfriends, we would never put up with their BS in real life, but yet we'll give them a free pass when it comes to fictional world.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Okay, so of these two series, which is going to take you into 2026,
mm-hmm.
which is so exciting, do you have an issue with shiny new idea?
I don't.
Where you'll get like a new idea for a new series, or you're like, and how do you organize that? How do you do you have also a series Bible for your existing works? So where do ideas go?
It usually goes into the notes app on my phone, or I will like start a Google Drive. I'll start a new folder and with a Google Doc, and I just throw ideas because sometimes, which is funny because I just had, a few months ago, I had an idea for a fantasy motorcycle romance.
Ooh,
and, yeah,
I haven't heard that before.
It just hit me, and I was like, oh, okay. So, and like the main male character was so vivid in my brain, like I just could picture him, and I couldn't get rid of him to write anything else. And I was in the middle of editing the site, and I was also in the middle of trying to write another book, and I was like I tried pushing him to the side, and he wouldn't leave me alone. So he has 2 chapters, and he is literally sitting in my Google Drive doing nothing else. But
at least you got him down and out of your head, because sometimes, we're like, I'll remember it. And then a month goes by and you're like, what was that?
Mm-hmm. I've learned that I can't do that because I will either forget or I obsess over it to the point where I can't think of anything else. So, and I'll tell my husband's like, oh, I got this idea. And I'll tell him, and he's just like, wait, what about the Immortal Traveler series? Wait, what about, like the Fated Love series? Wait, aren't you supposed to be publishing this book? And I was like, I'll get to it. It's okay.
Okay.
So.
Can I just say, though, how sweet it is that he is in your world with you, because there's a fair amount of spouses that are not supportive.
He has read all of my books. No. He's my original alpha reader. And so he'll read them, and sometimes he's like, I don't get this. And so then I'll like tweak it.
Perfect.
And then he loves reading the reviews because he's like, I'm not a romance reader, and I understood that. Like, so I was like, but to each their own, like every reader is a little different. So yeah, he reads all my books, which is huge for him. He's not a big reader. So the fact that he actually reads mine.
Okay, well, 80% of romance readers are women. So kudos to him. Yeah. And you know how sweet that he's so supportive of your career and what you're trying to achieve here.
Yeah, he's really good with it. And he lets me ramble all the time. Because he'll be like, hang on, time out. Like, let's pause the book talk for a second. I gotta like actually talk real world stuff. And then
He's
he
like,
gets his thing out, and then he's like, okay, go.
that is so
Yeah.
cute. What a good guy.
Yeah.
Okay, so I was going to ask you, how do you, I guess, organize your series? Like I said, do you put it in do you have a book Bible or a series Bible? How do you keep, the magic and who's doing what and who has what powers? How do you organize all that?
So as far as keeping them separate, like I said, the Fated Love, the magic is very, very minimal to none. And so that one's pretty easy to keep track of. I will say in that series, honestly, the tattoos on who has what tattoos is the hardest part.
Exactly.
And so I have a Google Doc with like basic descriptions, so I keep a document where it's like such and so has purple eyes, here's his height, here's his build, his color, hair, like kind of basic attributes so that I don't forget it.
And it's so easy to forget because when you're building all these characters in this world, it's so easy to forget whose eye color it is. And oh my gosh, you get it wrong, readers will let you know.
Oh yeah. Oh, and there's been a few times where I've reread stuff and I'm like, but he doesn't have those color eyes. What was I thinking?
But you just forget because you're already so far into the story, you forget what you wrote. And I mean, when you tell people that, they're like, but you wrote this story. You're like, I know I wrote the story, but I forgot. Because I'm trying.
Like, oh, wait a second. He's supposed to be blonde? Oh, I just made him a brunette. Hang on, let me like fix that.
Because you're always like, we're thinking in the story where we're at in that story. And then we're also like 2 books away, right? Because you're getting ideas for this needs to go in the next book, and that needs to go in the next book. So it's hard especially when you're writing a series, to keep all your information straight.
Yeah, it really is. I will say for my Immortal Traveler series, they speak a couple of languages in it. And I know. So the translations. I have a whole document on just the translations. Some I've made up. Others are like legit where I've had to like talk to other people or Google Translate and I become really good friends. So I've got my translations out too.
Do you have a reader or someone like an art team or beta readers that you can send over that speak whatever language that you're translating?
Do. So actually I have a couple of really awesome coworkers who one's really big into history and one's really big into Latin. And weird, right? I know, right? So I was like, hey, can you read this to make sure that it kind of makes sense? And so they brought it in for those 2 perspectives. And there was one, so the Latin person of my translations were of course wrong. Google Translate was not foolproof. But so they fixed any of those for me.
Okay, well, my daughter has 4 years of Latin and my son has 5. And he has 3 more. She switched to Spanish. I was like, why don't y'all, we're in Houston, Texas. We're a border state. I'm like, why don't you learn Spanish? And they're like, Latin is the root of all language. I was like, okay, but no one speaks it. So if you need help, I can, track down my son.
Good to know.
Because Latin, I always say, that's like a dead language. And everybody's like, then that's their argument. It's the root of all language.
Yeah, so it's only briefly mentioned in book 1. And then in book 2, so book 1 is in a fantasy realm. And then in book 2, it actually comes back to our realm. And so it's a world where all religions and mythologies are true.
Ooh.
Yes. So it's been really fun because I take like our world and our like stories of multiple cultures and religions. And so like in book 2, we get to meet like the Norse gods. And then book 3, we meet the Sumerian gods. So it's like all of them are true. And so it's been really fun.
So how much research do you have to do?
A lot. I spend a lot of time Googling stuff, or like I said, I have friends who like are big into history. And so they've been able to help me make sure that I'm at least like going in the correct direction.
Oh yeah. I just had a discussion with my daughter because she is studying, the Norse, Greek, and Roman mythology.
Yeah.
I mean, some of the courses that these kids are taking nowadays is like, do y'all take basic math anymore?
No,
I
they
don't
don't.
remember studying all the different mythologies out there, but yeah.
Yeah,
And
I
so
tried.
she'll reference something. I'm like, who is that? Mom, it's a Norse god. I'm like, oh, okay, yeah.
I've tried to avoid a little bit with the Greek and Roman
Mhm.
mythology, like because it's like I love it. I think it's super fascinating. It's just I think there's a lot of it out there, so I was
Yeah.
trying to like mix and match. So a little bit of different ones. She mentions the Egyptian gods, although we don't meet them.
Well,
Um,
and there's a lot of retelling for the Greek and Roman, but not as
there
much as
is,
the
yeah.
Norse. You know, I think Norse gets into a lot of Viking books, like a Viking
Mm-hmm.
romance, but there's not a whole lot of retelling of the Viking like there is the Greek and the Roman mythology.
Right. Yeah. So they get their own little play. The Japanese gods make a play show up in the fourth book. Yeah. So that
Oh, that is
was really
super
cool.
interesting. How
Yeah.
do you pick that? How do you decide, or how does that come together for you?
I don't know. It's just kind of like where should she go next? And then it's like, oh, okay, because she's kind of traveling through time a little bit.
Mhm.
So I'm trying to like figure out where she goes. And okay, well, we've kind of like we've talked a lot about the Norse gods. Let's like move on to a different religion and meet someone else. So
My gosh, that I'm very, very impressed because to me that seems daunting if everything is true at once.
yeah. Well, and so I think that's what's really cool about it and how she interacts with the multiple, pantheons of the different gods and how they treat her. And so it's been a lot of fun writing her.
I I think it would be, but to me the research, I would be just like, I don't want to look it up. I don't want.
Yeah, I have a whole document just on the different religions. Like each religion has their own of who does what and who's in which book. And
Well, I'd
so,
imagine you have to because you read it, right? You read your research and you think, I got it. But then when you're writing the book, you're like, what, let's say that one worships, I don't know, there's their icon is like a horse or something, or maybe like a majestic horse with wings. It'd be hard to remember like whose was that again if you have everything always true, like all religions and all everything is true. It's hard to then tie back who that piece of information really does belong to.
well, and so some of the stuff it's been so like cartoonized or like
Yeah.
it's just like well and so for because we get into the Norse religion in book two because Marvel has like Thor and Loki and stuff like that, so everyone goes into it thinking oh yeah like I know it, but it's like that's not actually at all how any of the like stories went. So some of it, like when I look up the Norse religion, it's like how do I like I gotta weed past the Marvel side of it and find just the like actual like Norse stories.
I know it's hard to push those Hemsworths away to the side to get
Mm-hmm.
to the fact
He,
that is
he is quite
hilarious
yummy.
though. Oh my gosh, like they're beautiful. He's a beautiful specimen by all means. But I never thought about how you had to cut through all the commercialized
Yeah.
stuff to get to the actual reality of it, the
Well,
history
so
of
Thor is actually so he's in book two, and so in my research, Thor is actually half giant, and then Odin's son. So he's half Asgardian, half giant, and so in the book he is like, so in Marvel he's like a little tall, but
it. Yeah.
like not huge. And so I actually made him. He's I think 7 feet
Oh,
tall
like
in
a
the book.
giant.
So he's
Yeah.
actually half giant. Yeah. So it was fun to kind of like move past some of that kind of stuff.
Oh, yeah. So let me ask, switching gears, what do you think is the hardest part about being an indie author and the easiest part?
Uh, I think honestly the easiest part for me is just writing, uh,
Oh,
which sounds like that would be a lot harder because you finish a book and you think that's the hardest part of the work is doing that. For me, I would say the hardest part though is the advertising and the getting people to want to read it. And it like I have kids and a job and this is kind of a side gig. And so trying to, get people to want to read it it's been really, I think that's the hardest part for me is the advertisement and to find readers.
Yeah, marketing and reach is such a challenge. And it's like what you see works for one author. You're like, okay, I'm going to replicate that exact thing. And then it doesn't work. And you're
Hmm.
like, what is happening? It's constantly, to me, like testing the market and trying different things and trying to see what hits. And I don't know if any of us will ever understand these algorithms and what, launches one over the other.
Yeah, I won't understand it either. Yeah, I have a group chat with some other indie authors, and we're all just like, what the heck? Like, this reel got like 6,000 likes, and then the next one got 20. Like,
Oh, yeah. And
there's
then,
no rhyme
and
or
then
reason.
if you're on TikTok, it is even more
It's even
challenging because,
worse.
yeah,
Yeah.
no one can figure out their algorithm. Some people, it just is, to the moon, and other people can do the exact same reel or a video and it goes nowhere. Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah, so that's where we're at. We're all kind of like, I don't know what to do. What am I gonna do?
Yeah. And you swap ideas. It's nice though that you have that um, author community, that indie author community to leverage because it's nice to have that support and to be able to trade ideas.
And I think that's huge. I would probably say that's the best advice I would have for an indie author is to find your village. It's so nice to be able to message somebody or a group of people to be like, hey, like, what do you think? Or, hey, what's working for you? Hey, can you share my posts? Hey, like, just help each other out. Uh, so even something as simple as the book I have coming up, I couldn't decide between white or cream paper. So I ordered a proof of both. So I took pictures. It was like, okay, which one? And so they were able to help me. Like something so silly, like just the
Oh,
paper.
no. Oh, it's fantastic. And what to me is always surprising because I'm part of a baby author group. And I say baby authors, I mean, some of us have published, a couple, some have published, 10 or more. So I don't know about baby author is fitting anymore, but it's nice because that author journey is so varied and
Yeah.
wide, and people are doing different things or trying different things, and you can put out, like you said, any question under the sun. If you're like, hey, do y'all do book boxes? People dive in, they're like, oh, yeah, I'll tell you my book box. I put one in it, what I would do, what I won't do, how to do it. I had a question about, PAs and street teams and ARC. I run all that myself. And there's some in there that have PAs and they have them to run their street and art teams, and they're like, I don't get the engagement. My reviews are even worse, because it's not personable. So it's interesting. It's almost like your own database of
Yeah.
help. I love it.
Yeah, I do too.
And you can put anything out to those groups and people will just dive in and help. And I feel like,
Hmm.
the indie author community, we rise with the tide, right? We all benefit each other. We all try and help each other out. To me, it's a lovely community.
I love it too. Yeah. That's one of the other things I love about it that I've discovered with Instagram is this indie author community and how so many of them are like, everyone has each other's back. And it's kind of nice to, like, oh, even I'll read your books, you read my books, like let's exchange, like let's talk. So it's kind of nice.
Exactly. So we're coming up on an hour. I have my rapid fire
Oh,
questions that I would like to ask. Um, they're really easy, low key. But first, I want to say thank you so much for choosing my live to debut your beautiful face because
thank
I know
you.
it's the first time you have
It
been.
is like it's me. It's not a cartoon.
I know, but you're so sweet and so personable and
Thank you.
beautiful. And I think people really want to see, like, okay, who is behind um, your fantasy covers? Because let me tell you, your Instagram wall is gorgeous. The stuff that you're putting up, I mean, it is superb.
Thank you. Oh, thank you. I've been trying really hard to get like themes going with it and trying to do better about posting.
Oh, yeah. I like where you have your pinned ones. Those are really
Oh,
cool.
I stole that from another author. Like I've seen a few where they have
Yep.
like the big banner across. So
It stands out.
yeah, I have a new banner coming with my new cover reveal, which is
Ooh.
tomorrow. Which if I have the book, if you want to see the proof of it,
Of course, because
uh,
I think, did you want to do the rapid fire and then did you want to do your announcement or your announcement and then rapid fire?
it's up to you.
Well, I will do rapid fire because that will close me out, and then you can have the floor.
Oh.
All right, Kris, hold on to your hairdo. Super serious.
Okay.
Okay. Do you prefer paperback or e-reader?
Ooh, I'm in love with my Kindle Paperwhite, so I might have to go e-reader. Please don't hurt me, readers.
No, it's so convenient, but we
It
love
is so
paperback.
convenient. Yeah.
But you can basically read in the dark at night in bed.
Yeah, and not wake up my husband who's laying next to me. So it's like, it's so much easier.
Exactly. Okay, we already talked about this. Are you a plotter or a pantser?
Pantser.
Do you write in first person or third person?
Ooh, I write in both.
Oh.
Yes. So Faded Love is in third, and then Immortal Traveler is in first.
Dang, girl. Whoa,
yeah, I
look
switch
at
it up.
you. Okay, mad respect. I can't write in third at all because you know how like third you're only supposed to tell, you know, like third is like, what am I trying to say? First you only have, it's limited, right? You only know what you know. But
yes.
third, you kind of have this overview, and that is hard to like mentally switch.
Yeah, if I'm writing two at the same time, which I weirdly have done before, I sometimes I'll have readers go through and like, wait a second, when did we switch the tenses? I'm like, oh shoot, I'm still in the other series. My bad.
Mad respect. That is crazy hard. Are you plot driven or character driven?
Ooh, I think it depends. It depends on the book and the scene. Most of the time, I'd probably say character driven.
You're like, I'm both.
Yeah, probably both.
Do you write alone, write with a partner, or write in sprints?
I write alone for the most part. I have done sprints, although I'm not very good at it. As we pointed out earlier, I tend to squirrel out, and so if I'm in sprints, like I bring the average down every sprint I've ever done. I kill the average where it counts.
So they're gonna kick you out.
Yeah, I'm always like, I'm sorry, I'm just gonna leave. Like I can't focus today.
Okay, outline writer or discovery writer?
I don't know if I know what a discovery writer is.
So since you don't outline, you discover. So you discover your story as you're writing it.
Okay, a discovery writer. Half the time I don't know the ending when I start a book.
Really? Okay, because there's a lot of pantsers that say, "Oh, I know the ending. I just can't tell you the beginning or the middle."
Half the time I know the characters. That's about it.
Oh, that is cool. Okay, if we could just be inside your brain for a moment.
And it's scary. It's all over the place.
You're like, it's a jumbled mess. Yes. Do you write in silence or with music?
I have to be in silence. I squirrel out too easily.
That's going to be the like theme of this.
It is. It's just like a squirrel.
I love that movie. Okay, do you write with a deadline or at your own pace? You said at your own pace.
Definitely own pace.
Series or standalones?
Both.
Yeah, because you have that first one.
Yep. And I have another standalone that may turn into a series. I don't know where the Motorcycle Club one's going. So, like I said, 2 chapters.
Gosh, but if you did that, you could start that own like niche. Because motorcycle is huge. Fantasy is huge, and then to marry the two, I don't even know if there's a book out there like that yet.
That would be cool.
Ooh. Okay, historical setting, present day, or future tense, or future present. Girl, historical setting, present day, or future.
So present, and then I will say I also really like to write ancient history. I don't do well with the kind of Bridgerton kind of era stuff. I think it's overdone, and I'm not a historical writer, so yeah, either present or way in the past.
What I've learned about you, Kris, is you're like, I love research.
I do. Like I research a lot.
I mean, ancient text, when you're going back to ancient times, I mean, there is nothing the same from now.
No.
Everything has to be looked up. The language, the color, this, the clothes, the setting, everything.
Yep. Well, and so some of the stuff is like it's also all like not super well known. So it's like, and it's fiction. So I do take some liberties.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, because you're right. Nobody, trust me, no one's doing the research you're
No.
doing, so they wouldn't have no idea. They'd be like, oh, okay, Kris said this, that means it's true.
Yeah.
Well, mad respect, because I think you're like, if it is hard and difficult and confusing, sign me up.
That's what it sounds like, doesn't it? I swear, it's just my brain is like, ooh, this is cool. Let's go do that.
If it is hard and challenging, and yeah, I'm the one for it. Okay, so I turn the floor over to you.
Okay, so my cover reel is tomorrow, where I'll post the official cover of my upcoming book for on March 1st. But it's my newest series, and da da da.
Ooh, that is
proof.
that is gorgeous. I'm sorry, I interrupted. Say the name
So
again.
this is Woman in the Forest. So forgive the proof copy because it's not live yet, so I can't order an author copy yet. Well, yeah, so this was done by Sherry with Wild Love Designs. But what my favorite part, though, is the picture is all the way across. So even the spine has the picture.
So it's wrapped, the picture, yeah, if you're just doing the audio. So the picture is wrapped all the way around, including the spine. That is stunning, and those colors.
Yeah, so
is it a blue? Because it looks very, very blue on here, like a blue turquoise.
It's like a turquoise, yeah, so it's a bluish green. And so it's called Woman in the Forest. It is book 1 in the Immortal Traveler series. She's meaty. So
how many pages is that?
So it's 426, but that includes like the front and back matter. But this is also my first time with pictures.
You did inside graphics.
Yeah, so I did inside graphics as well. So this is my first time with it, and that has lengthened it a little bit too.
That is stunning.
So I am super excited for it. It's like everything, like I said, she's been a labor of love. I think she's taken me probably, let's see, it's taken me about 1.5 years to get the guts to get to this point. So,
bless your heart. I'm so glad you stuck with it though, because look at that cover. Look at that book. Like, do you just want to look at it all the time? And like your kids are like, hey, can you make me dinner? Hold on, I need to look at my book again.
There was one day, so when this one, so I went with the cream pages. So when the white and then the cream showed up, it was about dinner time. And so I was just like going back and forth between the books. And so my husband would be like, hey, babe, we need to do something. He's like, whatever, just stay with your books. Like, so he went and he knew that like my focus was nowhere else.
Yeah. Those covers are stunning. And so that's a sword.
Yeah. So we got the sword in the middle. And she was incredible. I gave her like the world's ugliest prototype of a cover was like with what I wanted. And then she ran with it. And so the cool part is like the sword kind of is threaded into the words.
Yes. I love it. It's so stunning.
Yeah.
Dang. Okay. What is hanging off? Is that like a medallion?
So it's a necklace.
A necklace. Okay.
Yeah. And so each book will feature one of her symbols. But they will all have the wraparound picture. And I think I'm going to do a different color for each one too. So that way when you have them all laid out,
can you imagine?
Well, and
so that's going to be the 9 book, that's the wish list, that you get to 9 books. Can you imagine how beautiful that will be when you have all the different colors?
I did. Yeah. When I got them, I think Aria was the first one that I texted and was like, I literally just got chills picturing a bookshelf with the 9 of these lined up like a rainbow of colors. So yeah,
that's exactly what I was thinking in my mind. I'm like, if I just like glanced over and there's my book and all those colors, I would die.
Yeah. So, and yeah, like the spine, I even stuck it on a shelf with random like books, and it was like, it stood out so much because, the image is still on the spine. And then I was, I like to know what number I am in the series. So, I made sure to put the numbers on.
And glossy. I love glossy covers, but everybody's like, ooh, glossy. I love high gloss covers.
Yeah, well, I went with Matt with my other series. And so I wanted it to be like very different from each other.
Ooh,
Because
they
so this is
are.
very dark romance, and this not so much. So I wanted to show that difference. So
Oh,
yeah,
you knocked it out of the park.
thanks. Yeah,
Congratulations.
that one. I'm so in love with that cover.
Heck yeah. I was just like, look at my books. They'd be on my vanity when I'm putting on my makeup. Look at my books.
We're building a bookshelf to go in the living room. So we're calling it my trophy shelf, so that I can put all my
Heck
books, my books
yeah.
on it.
You got
Yeah.
it. Yeah. Like your wall of fame.
Yeah. So my husband and I are building a bookshelf for me.
Such a good man.
I know he's a good one.
Well, Kris, this has been like a super fast hour, lots of fun. And so I want to do it again when you have your book launch in summer. I know you didn't give us a date, but I
Buy
know.
my book more, and then I can do it sooner.
But more importantly, you have your launch on
I
March
do.
1st.
Arcs are still open for that until I'll probably close them Sunday
And
morning. So
where can people sign up?
if you go to my bio, you can go find the link there. Well, it's also on my website as well. But yeah, so if you want to read it, the arcs are still open.
Wonderful. Yeah. Okay. And so we will book. I wish you all the best. I will, of course, DM you like we
Mhm.
always do. And then I will share all your, your cover reveal and then your graphics and
Thank
then
you.
your release coming up. So it's so
So
exciting.
excited.
And that book is stunning.
Thank you so much.
And so I will catch you in the DMs and we will do this again.
I'd love to.
All
All
right.
right.
Thanks so much, Kris. Ciao for now.
Bye.
Bye bye.